They would later say he was too young to make that decision, too emotional, too impulsive to understand the cost of disobedience. But no one ever explained why the scream stopped the moment he pulled the trigger. No one explained why 2 children were still alive because he chose to act. And no one wanted to admit that the most dangerous terrorist in Afghanistan disappeared the same night a young lieutenant put a bullet across his neck. This is not the story of a perfect soldier. It is the story of First Lieutenant Oliver James Harrington, the man they condemned, and the only man who could stop a nuclear catastrophe. Before this story continues, if you believe that courage sometimes means disobeying orders, subscribe to this channel. Stories like this are not always told by governments. They are told by consequences. Oliver James Harrington was 23 years old when he arrived in Afghanistan. He stood taller than most men in his unit, broad-shouldered, athletic, with a calm presence that made people trust him instantly. His face carried a natural symmetry that made his fellow soldiers joke that he should have been a model instead of an infantry officer, but it was his eyes that people remembered most. Gentle, focused, human. Oliver grew up in a quiet town in Northern California. His childhood was stable, warm, and disciplined. His mother was a nurse who worked long shifts. His father was a high school history teacher who believed deeply in service and responsibility. Dinner conversations were often about ethics, leadership, and the weight of choices. When Oliver was 16, his father suffered a stroke. He survived, but never fully recovered. Watching the strongest man in his life struggle to button a shirt changed something in Oliver. It taught him that strength was temporary, but integrity lasted. He enlisted not because he wanted to fight, but because he wanted to lead. He believed the military was one of the last places where responsibility still meant something. At West Point, his instructors described him as disciplined, empathetic, and unusually composed under pressure. Afghanistan was supposed to be the beginning of his career. The mission briefing was direct. Intelligence had identified a high-value Taliban leader operating under the alias Abdul Rahman al-Safi, known among intelligence circles as the Broker. He wasn't just a field commander, he was a facilitator, a man who connected money, weapons, and ideology. The order was simple: move through a rural village, confirm presence, capture if possible. No civilian engagement unless authorized. Oliver led his platoon through narrow dirt roads as dusk settled. The village appeared quiet, almost abandoned. Too quiet. Then he heard it, a sound that did not belong to war, a woman screaming. Oliver slowed instinctively. His eyes locked onto a small clay house set back from the road. Through a partially open door, he saw movement, shadows. Then the sound again, a child crying. He signaled his men to halt and moved closer. Inside, a woman knelt on the floor, her face bruised and bleeding. 2 children, no older than 7, were tied together in the corner. 3 armed men stood over them. One struck the woman with the butt of his rifle while another laughed. Oliver felt something tighten in his chest. He radioed higher command immediately. His voice was calm but urgent. He reported civilians being assaulted and held hostage. He requested authorization to intervene. The reply came seconds later. Negative. Continue mission. Target priority remains unchanged. Oliver pressed again. He mentioned the children. The response was colder this time. Orders stand. In that moment, Oliver understood exactly what obedience meant. It meant walking away. It meant pretending not to see. It meant trusting that the mission mattered more than the lives in front of him. He looked at his men, young faces, tired eyes. Then he made a choice. Oliver ordered his platoon to continue toward the objective. He would rejoin them. Alone, he approached the house. The door came down hard. The first man fell instantly. The second reached for his weapon and never fired. The third ran, panic overtaking training. Oliver fired once. The bullet tore across the man's neck. Blood sprayed the wall as the man screamed and disappeared into the darkness, clutching his throat. Inside, silence returned. Oliver cut the ropes. The woman collapsed, shaking. The children clung to him, crying without sound. "You're safe," he said softly, though he knew safety was fragile. He left food, water. Then he disappeared back into the night. When Oliver rejoined his unit, no one spoke. They reached the compound identified by intelligence. It was empty. No weapons. No leader. The mission failed. Back at base, Oliver was summoned immediately. His commanding officer, Colonel Richard Hayes, did not ask about the civilians. He asked about the deviation. Oliver told the truth. Hayes listened in silence. Then he made a decision that would define both of their lives. Oliver was charged with disobeying orders, unauthorized use of lethal force, and compromising a high-value mission. The court-martial was swift, controlled. They needed accountability. They needed an example. Oliver stood straight as they read the sentence. 10 years. The Taliban leader vanished without a trace. 2 years passed inside military prison. Oliver trained his body to survive the monotony. He read. He wrote letters he never sent. At night, he saw the children's faces. He wondered if they were alive. Then, halfway across the world, a frightened man walked into a CIA safe house. The informant from the failed mission was desperate. He told the agency he had new information, dangerous information. The meeting was arranged in a contested zone. Someone was following him. The sniper fired once. The informant fell. With his final breath, he told the CIA the truth. The terrorist leader had not been at the compound because he was wounded, shot by an American soldier, a bullet across the neck, 3 guards killed. He survived, scarred. Now he was negotiating the acquisition of a nuclear warhead. The information hit command like a shockwave. They had intelligence. They had urgency. They did not have a face. Except one man did. Colonel Hayes stood outside a prison cell 2 days later. Oliver looked up, calm, controlled. "We need you," Hayes said. Oliver said nothing. "You were right," Hayes continued, "and I was wrong." The silence stretched. Hayes offered a deal. Conditional release. Full cooperation. Mission success would erase the conviction. Oliver agreed. He was flown back as a consultant. He sketched the face burned into his memory. The scar became unmistakable. They found the terrorist within weeks. The deal was stopped. The warhead never changed hands. Oliver watched from a distance as the man with the scar was taken down. Months later, Oliver walked free. His record was cleared. His rank restored. He declined promotion. Today, Oliver Harrington works with international security and humanitarian organizations. He trains leaders to recognize the line between orders and conscience. Sometimes he receives letters from Afghanistan, from a woman, from 2 children. They are alive. And Oliver knows the truth. He did not fail the mission. He fulfilled it. If this story moved you, share it. Because somewhere right now another young soldier is facing the same choice. And history will judge what command did not.